My husband, the captain, asked me for air assistance, but as an air traffic controller, I put on my Bluetooth headphones and listened to music. In my previous life, when the plane he was driving broke down, I immediately taught him how to troubleshoot the instrument failure and command and coordinate. He and the passengers on the plane were able to land safely. When I ran all the way to pick up my husband with red eyes, he accused me bitterly, "Why did you deliberately convey the wrong instructions to me? You almost killed more than 200 people on the plane." Seeing that it caused public anger, my best friend, the co-pilot, stood up to plead for me. Although the law does not punish everyone should not be too radical. I saved all the passengers, but was trampled to death by this group of irrational people. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day they took off. Stars 3213, you can take off. I sat in the center of the tower and calmly conveyed instructions to my husband, Harold. His hoarse voice came from the radio, "Why didn't you tell me to have a safe trip today?" Every time I sent Harold off in the past, I would half pray and half exhort him to land safely. But at this moment, I suppressed my nausea and hatred and said in a calm voice, "Have a safe trip." As an air traffic controller at Ohama Airport, my duty was to guide the plane to land and let the crew and passengers return home safely. In my previous life, Harold sent me an urgent request for help shortly after taking off. I instantly tensed up my nerves and felt anxious. I immediately assisted him in troubleshooting and monitored the weather and air conditions for him in real time. Finally, under my command and coordination, Harold turned around in the air and returned to the airport, bringing more than 200 people on board to make a safe emergency landing. Seeing that they survived the disaster, I ran to the exit with red eyes to greet Harold. I saw Harold and Stacy being surrounded by passengers. "Thank you so much, Captain Collins and Vice Pilot Sullivan. If it weren't for your professionalism and calmness, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to come back today." Seeing my husband and bestie being praised by everyone, I felt proud. But when I walked over, Harold not only avoided my hug with a cold face, but also slapped me hard in the face. "The weather is unpredictable and it's okay that you failed to report the weather conditions to us in time." Harold pointed at my nose and cursed angrily, "But why did you deliberately convey the wrong instructions to me? Do you know that you almost killed more than 200 people on our entire flight?" Looking at Harold listing my crimes in public, I was struck by lightning. "Harold, what are you talking about?" I looked at him in disbelief. "Today, I fulfilled my duties as an air traffic controller in all operations at the tower. It was even because of my extreme rescue that you were able to." Before I finished speaking, Stacy interrupted me with tears in her eyes. "Kelly, I know your family is on the verge of bankruptcy and urgently needs a huge amount of money to turn around. But you can't be so cruel to your husband for the high insurance, not to mention that there are so many innocent people on the plane." Stacy's words stirred up 1,000 waves. The passengers who had just lived and died with them didn't listen to my explanation at all. The passengers rushed up and tore and beat me, the real lifesaver. Although the law does not punish everyone should pay attention to the degree and not be too radical. My best friend Stacy made an exaggerated plea. Meanwhile, my husband watched coldly as my vision turned blurry black and white. I died tragically at the feet of these people. I pulled myself away from the painful memory of my previous life and my body trembled instinctively. The plane piloted by Harold broke down 15 minutes after takeoff, just like in his previous life. Ohama, Ohama. Stars 3213, the fault warning light on the aircraft instrument panel is on. Listening to his panicked call to the tower, I took off my work headset, replaced it with Bluetooth headphones, closed my eyes and listened to light music. 40 minutes later, I saw on the radar screen that Stars 3213 piloted by Harold turned around in the air and landed safely on the runway of Ohama Airport, just like in his previous life. And this time, I went directly to the apron to greet him. When Harold saw me, he walked over like an angry lion. "Kelly, what is your responsibility as an air traffic controller?" I said slowly, "Respect life and duty and bring all flights home." "Then why did you lie to me about the weather and convey the wrong instructions to me?" Harold grabbed my wrist and threw me heavily to the ground. He pointed at me fiercely in front of all the crew members and passengers and said, "It was she who lied about the weather and caused the plane to malfunction. She also conveyed the wrong emergency landing instructions to me, so I had to take everyone to take a risk and fly again." The passengers who were originally celebrating their survival and full of gratitude were instantly ignited by his words. "Don't you need to take an exam for this air traffic controller? How could she make such a low-level mistake? She must have been recruited through the back door. This kind of useless thing with only background but no ability is the most harmful. We must complain collectively to the airport leaders and completely eradicate this social cancer." Amidst the scolding, my eyes swept across the excited faces and finally fell on Harold, who was full of gloom. As an air traffic controller with 6 years of work experience, it is impossible for me to make the low-level mistakes you mentioned. What's more, you are my husband and I will do my best to ensure your safety. As my voice fell, the passengers who were originally indignant looked at each other and turned to a wait-and-see attitude. As if she felt that some words were not easy for Harold to say, Stacy immediately stood up. She pretended to be very determined before speaking. "Kelly, although we are college classmates and best friends for 12 years. But as an aviation person, I really can't cover up your evil deeds. Because no one can guarantee that the next flight will be so lucky and your calculations will ruin hundreds of lives. Every passenger on the plane has family and lovers waiting for them to go home." Looking at Stacy's attitude of sacrificing relatives for the sake of justice, someone raised the volume. "From what you said, this woman deliberately wants to harm us?" Her family is on the verge of bankruptcy and needs a huge sum of money for emergency. Captain Collins's insurance amount is very high and the state and the company will also have compensation and she is the first heir as his wife. Stacy didn't seem to say it directly, but in fact she said everything. Finally, he held his heart in fear and took a deep breath. If it weren't for Captain Collins's rich experience and our tacit cooperation, I'm afraid she would have gotten what she wanted this time and we wouldn't have been able to come back.